Hey guys, it's Chelsea and I'm here with a video that was requested after my book collection video. And that request was if I could talk about my personal favorite books in more detail. So here I am on my bed, which is one of my favorite reading places, next to my trusty bookshelf and with a stack of books I'm going to talk about. But before I do that, I have a little announcement to make. This request comes at a most perfect time, because I'm planning on starting a rather regular video series on books anyway. So this will be the first video of that. Yay! If you haven't figured that one out yet, I love reading. I'm so passionate about books. I'm a bookworm, have always been. And I usually manage to read at least one book a month. And I also love talking about books, so I figured I will film a review on the book that I read and upload that. So that will be one review video every month, and if time hopefully allows it, I will also film a second video every month so that I have a book related video coming out roughly every 2 weeks. And that second video will either be more book recommendations of books that I've read in the past, not necessarily that month, but just at some point I really liked, so that I can talk more about favorites that didn't make it into this video, or favorite authors, or specific genres or topics, or also just reading and writing in general, or books that are not novels but that I find really helpful in certain areas, etc. So if you have any suggestions or requests for anything, then just let me know, either in the comments or write me a message, and who knows, maybe your ideas will make it onto a list and eventually into my video series. But that's about that. Now let's get to my favorites. It is so hard for me to pick favorite books because there are so many good books out there. And I could literally sit here for 2 hours on end just talking about books, but I'll spare you that. So I have narrowed it down to 5 books and my favorite series. So I had to leave out a lot of good books that I love, but I have more recommendation videos coming up, so that's okay. The ones that I've chosen, I chose because, first of all, they're all really well written in my opinion, but also because content-wise I connect to them on such a personal level, and they have done so much for me as a person in my life, more than any other books I've ever done. Of these books and the selection that I've chosen, I literally love every single word in them. I will explain it in more detail as I go through the books one by one. The first is my favorite book series. I have read many good series, and I'm sure there are more to come, but if I had to pick one favorite, it's the Hunger Games trilogy. Sometimes I can't even wrap my mind around how amazing these books actually are. First of all, I love Susan Collins' way of writing. I love the way she makes words her own. But mostly I love the topic and how I feel these books are symbolic for our generation. A generation that was promised so much but let down in many aspects. A generation that was taught to dream, but is also constantly told what to do, how to look, what to like, and is limited and confined, and as a result is revolting. And I think that The Hunger Games really greatly captured this feeling. And at this point I would just like to say, yes, I love Katniss and Peeta together. I love how their love unfolds, especially in the last book. And I think the romance adds to a novel in the sense that it makes them easier to read sometimes, because it at some point takes some focus away from all the chaos and all the bad things and the deaths and sadness. So like that's in there. But I do not love these books for the love triangle or the romance. part of it, but it's not why I love these books. I love the books for the brutal honesty, for the social criticism in there, how people can be manipulated, how people in position of power would often do anything to remain there, how many people don't care about problems as long as it doesn't concern them personally, how a flawed society doesn't care for its victims. On the other hand, how there's this spark of hope, how there's this sense of revolution and how you can change things, how people can change. For example, Effie's character development, although only in the background, is one of the strongest character developments I've ever read. And speaking of strong, I am in it for the strong female characters. Katniss, of course, but also her sister Prim and Rue, a little innocent girl whose death in the morning of that death really sparked a revolution. I think that is such a strong statement. And lastly, also, as I already pointed out, the awesome way they're written. So I really recommend you read The Hunger Games. It's so worth it. And I've read them all before I even saw the movies and loved them all. And although the movies I think are good, I love the books even more. So, yay. That's my favorite book series, The Hunger Games. Now, on to the next. The book I'm going to talk about now really struck a chord in my heart when I first read it, and it's almost ironic that I used the word struck by now because it's Struck by Lightning by Chris Colfer. This book may not be the most well-written book or with the greatest story ever, although I think that both the writing and the story are really good. But what I love most about this book is that it's so real and so authentic. I also have Chris Colfer's other books, his Land of Stories series, and I also love them a lot. But this one is really personal for me because I feel like Chris included a lot of personal issues and memories in this, and also I really connect to the protagonist Carson Phillips, who is a boy who goes to high school, but he doesn't fit in there, and he doesn't like his high school or his town, and he feels almost trapped in his high school, and his town is home, basically in his life, and his one goal is to get away to a bigger city and become a journalist. And there's, first of all, I really know this feeling, and there's so much truth in here and so many things that are relatable, and also a lot of criticism on educational system and how people sometimes treat each other, but also a sort of hope for friendship and how things can change and dreams can come true. And it's so quotable, this entire book, but probably my favorite quote is, "In what grade do we stop believing in ourselves? In what grade do we just stop believing? Period. I mean, someone has to be a Nobel Peace Prize winner. Someone has to be a ballerina. Why not us?" I think about this quote a lot. It's one of these quotes that really helped me become more confident and believe in myself and my dreams, and whenever I feel myself slipping and losing faith, I just remember this quote in this book. And also, one thing, if you've read the book, you'll understand, and if you haven't read the book, then, well, go read it to understand. Once Upon a Time. Yeah. Oh, this book means really a lot to me. And also, it's now a major motion picture. So you can also watch a movie, which is also really good, but I recommend reading the book first, because it has, of course, a bit more in it than the movie. And yeah, I really love it, so Struck by Lightning. Next is Watership Down by Richard Adams. This is also a movie. I know, I don't know if maybe there are even several movies, but one I think of is an animated movie that I actually grew up with. I saw it several times when I was a kid. And when a couple years ago I got hold of the actual book, I was so happy, and I read it within like only a few days. It was so amazing, and there's one quote on the back that says, "I cannot imagine that any sensible reader could come away from this novel unaffected and unchanged." And I think this is so true. Many classify it as a children's story, but I don't really think that it is, because there's some real horrible sadness in there, but also real beauty. It's about rabbits who are chased from their home by humans. And I don't know if they want to build a street or a train, but something man-made, and they mercilessly kill the rabbits that are in the way and destroy their home, and a few rabbits get away and are now on the search for a new home, a new place to stay. And on the way they encounter all kinds of adventures, but also all kinds of dangers, both from human and from the natural world, because rabbits have a lot of natural enemies. And it's a real page-turner, and there's so much imagination in there, but also so much wisdom. And the ending is one of the most beautiful endings I've personally read, and although I knew what was coming because I have seen the movies so often, I still bawled like a baby when I read the end. It's so beautiful, this book. I really, really recommend it. And one I only got recently, but already count as one of my favorites, is Staying Strong by Demi Lovato. At this point, shout out to Laura, who gave me this book, because I said I would really like to have it, so she just gave it to me, and people who give me books are my favorite people. So thank you, Laura, and she also made me this way around, this beautiful Stay Strong bookmark. So it's awesome. Basically what this book is, for every day of the year, Demi has written an entry that starts with a quote, an inspirational quote or a thoughtful quote, and then something from her personal story that she connects with that, and then a goal for herself and also for the reader. And I think this is really empowering and such a great motivation and inspiration if you're struggling, but also if you're not struggling and just want to improve yourself or motivate yourself in your life. And I really look forward to reading the entry every morning. The next one. When people ask me what my one favorite book is, I always say it's A Little Princess by Frances Hudson Burnett. I love her way of writing, also of her other children's books. And yes, it is classified as a children's book, but I feel like you can really read it and appreciate it at any age. This book is so amazing. First of all, as I said, her way of writing is spectacular, I think. But especially the story, it's about a little girl, Sarah, who really loves her dad, and they're rich, but she doesn't care about that too much. She has a really strong bond with her father, but then he has to send her away to school because he has to travels for his work and everything. But he sees that she has everything she wants and needs. But then tragically he dies, and she is left without anyone in the world to care for her. And she's allowed to stay at the school, but now only as a simple maid. And she has to run lots of errands and do really cruel and dirty work, actually way too hard for a little girl. And she kind of loses herself and her faith, but then she remembers who she really is. A princess, not only on the outside, but especially at heart. She's so sweet and so kind, always in good spirits, and that's how she carries herself through the hard times. And then some more things happen, which I will not go into, not to spoil the book. But this is such a fantastic book. It gives me such a great outlook on life. And I feel like my essence, the way I want to treat people, the way I want to live, and the way I want to carry myself is explained in this book. Really, if you want to understand my essence, you just have to read this book. I love it. I love it so much, I can't even put it into words. So yeah, A Little Princess. And lastly, a book I have talked about before as well, and which I really don't want to leave out in this selection, is Jetzt ist deine Zeit by Eddie Hühnecke. It's in German, and there's no English version of it, but if you're in any way able to understand some German, I really recommend getting this book. I'm not gonna lie, this is one of the books that changed my life. Eddie Hühnecke is a member of the band Wise Guys, which is my favorite band. And the title translated means, "Now is your time, my way to enjoying life." So it's about his personal life story and also about the band, so if you're a fan of the band, then this is really interesting. But even if you're not a fan of the band, or maybe I've never heard of them, this is also really, really great because, as he says in the title, it's his way to understanding himself and his body and appreciating his body and his mind and everything he is, and appreciating life and living life to the fullest. And after every chapter there is this little column called Tips and Tricks, and there he talks about all kinds of things. Like, it starts with simple things like healthier eating habits or keeping in contact with others, but it's also about appreciating yourself, about taking compliments, learning to take compliments, learning to celebrate yourself, to love yourself, to listen to yourself, also to listen to others, about solving conflicts, and all these kinds of things. So basically it's a guide to improve your life and find your own happiness and also be kinder to others. And I think this is really, really great. It really grounds me. I have read it several times. I read it first when I was at a darker place in my life, and this really changed me. It gave me a new outlook on life and reminded me of who I want to be and how I want to live my life. And I read it again every couple of months, and I really recommend this book. It's so amazing, and I'm so thankful it exists. And I actually told Eddie that when I met him after a concert once. So this is definitely one of my favorites. And that is it. These are my absolute favorite books. I hope you like this, and I hope I see you again my next book video. And until then, have a great time, and remember to read a good book this month. Bye!